Hello and welcome to this week's edition of WCS Coaches Preview Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me are the coaches from the Ravenwood Raptors and Summit Spartans. For the WCS game of the week this week is the Summit Spartans at Ravenwood. And with me on this first half of the show is Mariska Harris, coach of the Lady Raptors, and Josh Goodwin, coach of the Lady Spartans. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. Right now, the Ravenwood Lady Raptors are sitting in third place, alone in third place. They're sitting at 12-5, 4-2 in the district, and the Lady Spartans are sitting at alone for fifth, 7-11 and 2-3 in the district. Right now, we have a log jam. The district tournament coming up, the meat of the schedule coming up. How do you see this, guys, playing out as we go down? Every game is important. What do you think right now, conference-wise? Who's the conference favorite right now?
I think we both would probably agree. Dixon County right now. I mean, they're loaded from their first five. They're not very deep, but what they have starting, is pretty strong all around.
Well, that's kind of been the sentiment all year. I think that Dixon is the overall favorite going in. Josh and I spoke on game day early this week about that and the players that they have and their staff, and they're doing a really good job right now with the players that they have. Mariska, we're going to start with you since you're the home team. Why don't you give our viewers a little bit of a quick bio of what you've done up to this point?
This year, just this season?
Your career.
Oh, career. Well, I played at Ezel here locally in high school, actually with Josh's wife. We played together, and then in college I played at Trevecca, and then after that I actually coached in Williamson County at Independence for 2 years, and then most currently I was at MTSU the past 4 years.
Well, that's an interesting note. I know that we spoke with Josh last time about the college game, and give us a little insight about the college experience that you've had on the coaching side and how that translates into the high school level.
Well, I think the biggest thing, it gave me a vast knowledge of the game of basketball working under Coach Insel. He's one of the greatest high school coaches probably to ever coach girls basketball, and just his knowledge that I learned from him in the 4 years, and being able to see the intensity of the game of basketball, and really the scout preparation for other teams, really helped me as well. So it's definitely different, definitely coming back to high school, just the competitiveness and the intensity, but it definitely helped give me some confidence. Josh,
along that same line, talk about your experience with Belmont, how that translates into your program with the Lady Spartans.
Well, like Mariska said, it gives you that knowledge. It gives you a base to draw from, but then drawing it back to high school, there's a huge difference in the competitive nature of most of your high school kids and the basketball IQ and the skill level, and trying to mesh the knowledge that you gain at that college level and kind of bring it to the high school kids. That's kind of where the transition becomes a little tricky. But being able to relay that knowledge is huge, and it helps them, benefits them a lot.
I know we talked last time, Josh, that when you come into the high school level, you can't necessarily, you take your knowledge from the college level into the high school level, but you can't take that the skill set of those college players and the knowledge that they have at that level and make the mistake of going into your high school group and saying, okay, we're going to run this and this, and make those adjustments without the preparation work first. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made as a first-year head coach, was doing that and coming in thinking that all these kids could run those types of offenses and know all the little nuances that go with it. Have you seen that as well, that you have to keep it as simple as possible?
Yeah, you definitely have to simplify things, and for me it was hard. I didn't get to work with them last summer at all, so really starting in November, just trying to build. Beginning of the year we only had maybe 1 or 2 offenses or quick hitters, and we're just gradually trying to build. I still haven't put in everything that I like, but you have to simplify things, and you really have to explain them because they don't just get them right away. Especially it's hard. You can't really draw something up in a huddle, expect them to go run it. You really have to work on it for several days for it really to start to kind of sink in how to make reads and to actually execute an offense.
And at the high school level, repetition is so crucial for them to get that. You spoke of individual skills. I know that Josh, you are a real good individual skilled person. You know the drills. You do well with the one-on-one stuff. Give us a little insight of how you have incorporated those individual skills and drills with your team to improve.
Well, you've really got to break it down, and we tell our girls that the preseason and early season is the time where we can spend some time on you. Once we are in January, the late part of our district schedule, kind of the individual skill stuff goes out the window because you've got to prep so much. You've got to prep for what's coming up. You want to install a couple of new things, catch some people off guard, and you don't have as much time for the individual work. But off season and preseason, you really get to you let them know where their skill set is and where it needs to be if they want to reach their goals, and you kind of put a plan in place to do these drills and reach these goals as you go forward.
I'll ask the guys, coaches as well, the same question. How do you feel the importance of defining roles for each player, each position at the high school level? How important is that, or do you not do that at all?
I mean, I think it's huge. I mean, at the beginning of the season, the first week, 2 in practice, I'd have individual meetings with each of them, kind of telling them their role, their strengths, their weaknesses, because I think it's huge, knowing what you do well and what you bring to this team, but also things to work on, and, who needs to have the ball at the end of the game, what the other team's, strengths and weaknesses are, and who we really, should be able to use more, offensively that game. So I think it's definitely important at the high school level to be able to establish roles and for them to understand it.
Same thing. I mean, you've got to be able to give them. They need to know what they're capable of, and the toughest thing is a lot of times in high school it's the first time they've heard that they're not as good as mom and dad think they are.
Absolutely.
And when the quicker they come to that reality, and also learn that if I want to be that good, then these are the things I need to do. That's important for them. They need to know exactly what's expected of them so that they can do their job and do their job well.
Well, the roles are pretty specifically defined for a college kid. When you're getting recruited, either getting recruited as a point guard or as a shooting guard or as a post, or if you're happen to fall in that slasher category that has a green light to do whatever. At the high school level, it's like you said, they come in thinking, I've got to do this, got to do that, and then your definition of role of what they're going to play on that team may be different than what's in their mind or the parents, and that can be a pro and a con. The pro is when the team individually buys into what you're selling. Hey, I need you to rebound and have 12 rebounds a game, and that's your job. Any offensive rebound you get, you can put it back. But 15-foot shots, that's out of the question. And sometimes they have a hard time with that because they've thought all the way up into that point, hey, I'm a scorer. Mm-hmm. But when they buy into that system, that can really benefit your team as a whole. And I know that we talked last night, I talked to a coach last night about the definition of roles, and they felt in their particular situation that he had not done that just due to the fact that kids could possibly, he had done one and they kind of shut down on him because all of a sudden it hurt their confidence or whatever. And at the high school, you have to walk that fine line of defining roles. Let's talk real quick. Tuesday night game, Ravenwood played at number 1 Dixon. I know that was a tough matchup, lost 63-32. Let's talk a little bit quickly about that game and what happened.
I mean, basically, we played Brentwood the Friday before, and I think, I think that our guys' coach will say the same thing. Coming off such an emotional game like that and it being close, I mean, I think they still were, stuck on that game, and I think part of that, not moving on, not refocusing on the next opponent was definitely a challenge that I faced coming into practice on Monday and having one day to prepare for Dixon. You really need a week, 2 weeks to prepare for playing a team like that because they are so well-rounded. They've got Lily Carter, who's an unbelievable athlete, but you can't put all your focus on her because they have other players that can step up and shoot. And I thought we did a good job stopping Lily last night, kept her to 13, but we didn't do a good job as far as the other girls keeping them down. And offensively, we struggled scoring. We just we got in foul trouble early with 2 of our girls. Charges called on them early, putting them in foul trouble, and I think that slowed them down being aggressive because they got those early fouls, and we struggled offensively after that, looking to be aggressive.
Well, Summit went into Centennial and got a huge win for you guys to get yourself in position in the middle of the pack there in the district. After scoring 9 points in the first half, you had a huge second half with 32 points, and finished out 47-40. And tell me a little bit about that game, how you came back after the half and did things necessary and made adjustments.
It was a tale of 2 halves. Like you said, we scored 9 in the first half, and obviously nothing that we do as coaches is to prepare to score single digits in a half. The problem we ran into is we let Centennial kind of control the tempo. We played at their pace instead of forcing them to play at our pace. And that's one thing that changed in the second half. Took a little coercing and a little bit of yelling to get them to wake up and do what they needed to do. But controlling the tempo is huge, especially in the girls' game. If somebody wants to play slow and you're not accustomed to that, then it really takes your kids by surprise. And when you can force your tempo on somebody else, that just kind of puts the game in your favor.
Well, like I said, that was a huge win. Right now, Mariska, you're coming off 2 losses. You're getting into the meat of your schedule here. It's very important to get yourself in a proper position for the seeding purposes. Who's playing well? Let's do a little player spotlight right now. Who on your team is playing really well? Let's talk more about your players.
Well, I think, defensively, I think we're doing a really good job defensively, buying in as a whole, our team. Offensively, our post player inside, Alexis, she's doing really good being aggressive. I got to get her to finish in and be more confident at the free throw line. And Downey, for us as a freshman, I've kind of thrown her to the fire as a freshman, playing varsity minutes, and being that leading scorer and that aggressive player for us on the offensive end. So I think definitely both of them. And then Bailey Swayze coming off the bench. She's a good offensive threat when we, being our 6-man coming in, giving us a burst. But definitely I need, Alexis and Bailey coming back and playing, because the last 2 games offensively, they have struggled for us in scoring, and we need them both, back, getting us back on pace.
Josh, you're 2-2 in your last 4 games. Like I said, the Tuesday night game was huge for you. How do you feel your team's playing? And let's talk a little bit about your lineup.
We're very up and down. We could be as bad as we could be, and then we could be very good at times. And when we're good, it's kind of like we talked about earlier, players buying into their role. We tell our girls that if your job is to score that 15 to 20 points, then that's great. But the girl whose job is to come in for 30 seconds and play great defense, that role is just as important as the 15 to 20 points. So when we've done well, everybody's buying into their role. Zakaria Esmond is our best player overall, best offensive threat. She gives people some matchup problems, but we've got a lot of other freshmen and sophomores who are stepping up and filling in their role. And as importantly, our juniors and seniors who don't have as big of a role, they're buying into that lesser role and being leaders vocally and emotionally.
Well, Mariska, currently you're sitting, like I said earlier, in 3rd place. Where would be a confident spot for you? What is a goal maybe that you set with your team of, we would like to finish here just because of the fact of the possible matchup, because we feel like we match up good against this team? Do you have that goal in mind yet, or is it a little too early? Or
I think from the very beginning, our goal's been to be number 1.
Sure.
And I think we have the capabilities if we play hard and we play, we're connecting on all cylinders, buying in roles offensively, we're scoring. Like I said, I think we're buying in on the defensive end, but we just got to, offensively, we got to get reconnecting. I definitely think that's a goal of ours, and it still is, being in 3rd right now. We just got to, continue to keep working.
And briefly with you, same thing. Kind of a different scenario, Summit being a younger school. What would be a good goal? What would be a spot in your mind you think, if I come in this place and we have this particular matchup, I feel pretty good about it?
Well, overall, our goal is just to try to foster and build a culture of success, which we haven't had. So any chance we get to do something that we haven't done before as a program or a school, that's kind of where our thought process lies. Whether we're 2nd place or whether we're 7th place, we're really eyeing that first game. We've never been to the region tournament, so trying to sneak up on anybody in that first round of the district tournament is big for us. So we're just kind of keying down to that one game. And
it's so difficult to get that one win in a tournament. If you could ever get that one win and experience the region tournament, that is something that's huge for your kids to build upon, and it seems like it's so difficult to get that one win, and when you do, you kind of open the door for things in the future. But I appreciate you both being here. Thank you so much. This is Mariska Harris and Josh Goodwin, head coaches of the Ravenwood Lady Raptors and the Summit Lady Spartans. When we come back from break, we'll be meeting with Coach Patrick Whitlock and Chris Ladd. Stay with us. This is WCS Coaches Preview Show. We'll be right back.
My book is Where the Sidewalk Ends. I like this book because the poems in it are really funny, and I like the illustrations, and they make me laugh.
Hello, welcome back to this week's edition of WCS Coaches Preview Show. We're now on the guys' side of things here with Coach Patrick Whitlock of the Ravenwood Raptors, who are currently sitting tied for second in the district, sitting at 10-9, 4-2 in the district. And Chris Ladd, head coach of Old Sparty down at Summit, currently sitting tied for fifth, 12-7, 2-4 in the district. How you guys doing today?
Great. Very well.
Good. Well, let's talk real quick. Tuesday night, you go to Dixon, Coach, and we have a barn burner of a game sitting up there. You beat Dixon by 1 point. The score was below 40 points. I mean, it was a slow, and in your words, ugly game, but we'll take a W any way we can get it. Let's talk real briefly about that game. What did Dixon do to slow you down and keep you at a low point total?
I switched defenses quite a bit. It was kind of hard to decipher really what was going on until you go back and look at it on tape, but they switched from 2-3 to man in the middle of possessions, ran some triangle and two, and we just didn't handle it very well. So the kids didn't really respond to anything we would draw up or try. So we fixed that this week in practice, and hopefully that's Coach Ladd's game plan on Friday night. So
we're gonna draw it up here in a minute what he's gonna do,
right.
And you can go ahead and give your rebuttal what you're gonna do. You're 2-1 in your last 3 games. You came off. We talked about the emotions, how high they were running on Friday night against Brentwood, and you lost that game in a close one. And going into Dixon, it could be one of those games, a trap game as we like to call it, because your kids are probably thinking that's an automatic win. We show up and play, but Dixon's always going to fight and do that. So that was a good win, regardless of the points total there, to get yourself sitting at tied for second with Franklin right now. Coach Ladd, your young team right now is sitting tied for fifth, lost to Centennial. Coach Johnson and the job he's doing at Centennial, he's getting that group turned around. Centennial's playing extremely good ball right now. 66-61 lost there. I know that you've lost 2 in a row right now. First time this year that you've done that. Your young squad, mentality-wise, are you at kind of a crossroads? You don't want to get to that point where 2 losses in a row and all of a sudden we kind of fall back into that trap where we're not supposed to be in these games. And I think you have turned the corner and wanting your kids to believe that, hey, we're in these games, and not only are we in them, we need to win them.
Right. Yeah, we've had some injuries that have hit us here lately too that have kind of decimated our bench a little bit. But you're right. We want to be real careful about our mentality, our mental state as we go into Friday, and continue to just take it one game at a time, and just make sure we're focused on Ravenwood, see if we can get back on the winning track.
And I feel like, and the only reason I say that is that your squad is younger than some of the veteran teams that we have, and those guys can sometimes bounce back a little easier, And I know that you're selling the fact that, hey, guys, we're here, we're in the middle of the pack. We talked about seating with the ladies. How important is seating at this point in time? These games on Tuesday night that you think may not, or the kids may not think will be important down the road, but how important, if flip the script, you lost that game, come down to head-to-head matches for seedings, how big would that game have been?
I mean, it's very significant, and we're kind of the mentality right now. We take it one day at a time. The district is so balanced this year, almost more so than any other year I've been here. So you have to have this one day at a time approach, but anything can bite you. Every game is our biggest game. Our biggest game is tonight against Summit.
And right now, Dixon has not won a game yet in the district, but you said earlier that you feel like at any given time they can step up and beat anybody.
Absolutely. I feel like you could say that about any team, really 1 through 7 in our district this year. There don't seem to be any weak teams, and it's going to be hard for Dixon to go through the conference gauntlet and not win a game. You just hope it's not you, and you hope it's not that second week of February.
And on the other end of the spectrum, we have Brentwood, who's gone through so far right now undefeated. But I feel like at any given time, they could also lose a game, not only one game, maybe even possibly 2, to make this thing even more muddled up than it already is. What do you think right now about Brentwood?
Yeah, I think they've had some close games already, and obviously last week with Ravenwood, I guess you guys went double OT, and so they can be beaten. I think they're still number 1 till somebody knocks them off, but I agree with Coach. It's very balanced this year, and anything can happen in that tournament, like you've been saying all year.
Yeah, I think with the girls' side, you have a predominant favorite right now at 1, and then it's a coin toss all the way through. But I think with the boys' side of things, with this second half coming up of the district schedule, it's going to be absolutely from my seat, it's going to be fantastic. From your seat, all of
so
a sudden,
much.
if you had hair, Coach, you would be pulling it out. But
No doubt.
But it's going to be fun. The district tournament's going to be great. Those seedings that we talked about, if you can hang on to second place right now, that's going to be huge. And Coach Ladd, you're trying to look yourself maybe to get in front of that pack or in the middle of the pack or even on the top half of the pack, so you could, get in that situation. So it's the parity every night is going to be up in the air. It's a coin toss. Every time the ball goes up, anybody can win 1-7. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Coach Whitlock, since it's your first time on the show, give us a little bio real quick about yourself, what you've been doing all the way up to this point.
Well, I grew up in Memphis. Went to White Station High School, played basketball there. They've had a pretty good run of success after I left. Then I went to Vanderbilt and was a student manager. I always knew I wanted to coach, so I was a manager for Coach Van Brudikoff. Made some contacts there, moved out to California and was assistant at Pepperdine for 5 years. Worked for Paul Westphal. And then once that was over, came back to Middle Tennessee, and now I've been at Ravenwood for 9 years. So it's gone by quick.
Let's talk a little bit about the college game. We said something about the girls. What does that bring? What do you bring to the table on that collegiate level that you've learned from Coach Westphal and Coach Van Brudikoff that you can apply to the high school game?
I think a lot of it was kind of just a full-time coaching training, being able to immerse yourself in basketball 24 hours a day. Really focusing on the scouting aspect of things. I think that allowed me to learn a lot. Learning things on the recruiting side of things, which I think can be an asset, even though we really haven't had a kid recruited at that level at Ravenwood, and hopefully that will work out one day. It'd be nice to have some guys like that. But just being able to be in basketball and around basketball 24 hours a day and learn from Coach Van Brudikoff. A lot of the sets we run are stuff that I've taken from him, and then just being around an offensive mind like Coach Westphal was just a great experience. So I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Curious question. When you step out of the gym at Pepperdine and you look into the coast there at Malibu, my question is, why would you ever leave that setting?
Well, it was a tough call to leave. Sometimes weird things happen when you coach in college, but I would probably go back if I had the opportunity.
Yep. Coach Ladd, let's talk a little bit real quick about yourself bio-wise for those that may not know you.
Yeah, I grew up in the Nashville area, played at Overton High School, went to Chattanooga State Junior College, played 2 years there, finished up at Tennessee Tech, and then became a lifer in our county. Started at Centennial and moved on to head coach at Page, and then now I'm at Summit High School.
Coach Ladd, let's start with you since you're the visiting team. Let's talk a little bit about player spotlight. Who's playing well for you right now for your team, and talk about a little bit about your team.
Yeah, we've John Carter obviously is our best player right now. He's been real consistent shooting the basketball. One of our better defenders, one of our better rebounders. But Connor Barnett here lately has really come on as a good shooter for us and a defender. Of course, we've got two freshmen that we start, Jaden Lewis and Ty Carter. They're pretty dynamic with the ball in their hands. So those four guys are kind of carrying us right now. Like I said, our bench is a little bit depleted at this point, but hopefully we're going to get some of those guys back in the next week or so, and they'll step in and help us out.
Now, some of your lineup have had some college guys come in, talk to them, offers on the table for a few of your guys right now.
Well, Preston Patterson has verbally committed to Cincinnati Christian. He's our lone senior, and of course John Carter is getting some looks from a lot of local schools. So no offers currently, but
Sure.
being watched by a lot of the local
Sure,
schools.
being a sophomore, I'm sure
Yeah.
the letters are coming, the calls are being made and things, and just contact with him to let them know that they're interested
Right.
for possibility of future down the road. Let's talk about your team right now, Coach Whitlock, who's playing well for you.
Well, we got a lot of guys that we really depend on. I mean, we're a solid 9 deep, and it's kind of the last 3 games, our leading scorer has been off the bench. So it's really kind of hard to figure out. I mean, it starts with Nick Gleason, our point guard. He was all district last year. Kid that really competes hard, plays very well, little press breaker for us. And then the other guy that has been really a focal point this year is Zach Tudine, who's played in the post. And he missed some games in Gatlinburg, which kind of hurt us. But he's been our leading scorer more than not, as Nick got off to a slow start. And then the kid that's kind of started to emerge is sophomore Elon Smallwood. He had 21 against Brentwood We've always known he's really talented. He really respects his teammates, so he's kind of deferred a little bit to this point. But as we get deeper into the season, he's becoming a lot more active offensively. And then I could list the other 6 guys because they all seem to step up on different nights, but it's only a 30-minute show. So.
Well, right now you're arguably probably the deepest team in the district. I mean, we can go down from start to finish, and some teams have a really good solid 6 to 7, probably is the average, and you're sitting here at 9 deep. That as you come in late in the season, and late in the games, that plays a big role in your scheme.
Absolutely. I mean, it negates some of the issues of foul trouble and things like that. And, it can be a good problem to have at times. Just having different guys step up, and it keeps practice very competitive, which was, until we got all the football guys back, was a major struggle early in the season.
I always found that when you go into practice, that was the hardest thing to duplicate. When we talked about coming from the collegiate level to the high school level, that you've got 4 to 5 kids that can really function, do those good things, but to get a game-like look from your second team and even further down is almost sometimes impossible to get that game-like simulation of doing the things that you want to do in practice. Coach Ladry?
Yeah, we're dealing with that a lot because we're not very deep right now. Our second team is made up a lot of freshmen, and they're just not quite ready to compete with some of the more talented players. We've kind of resulted to myself or one of my assistants getting in there at times just to give some size and.
You like that? Knocking the rust off?
It's definitely past my prime. But
you could probably always bring Coach Goodwin in if you need a shooter on scout team, so I'm sure he could do it, right?
Not a bad thought.
And he wouldn't mind it either. He likes to do those things, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk real quick school culture, okay? Going into your season, Coach Whitlock at Ravenwood, G2 bar was the hottest commodity in Tennessee. So let's talk about how that spills over into basketball, what the success of a football team does for your school and for your program.
Well, football is the first sport that really gets the notoriety and kind of drives the bus, so to say, for all the athletic departments. So the last 2 years, the job that Coach Hester has done and having the school pride and the sense of community be what it was can only be a positive. A lot of coaches say, "Oh man, it's too bad you got so many kids playing football." Where I actually think it's a fantastic thing because the competitive nature of those kids.
Absolutely.
And the other night we played in front of 2,000 people against Brentwood on TV, and it didn't faze any of those football kids because they played in front of 10,000 people about a month ago against Maryville in the state championship game. So I'm going to embrace that because it's a far better issue to have than when we weren't very good at football and school morale was low and you felt basketball season, you kind of had to carry it. So
and just naturally spills over in your sport. Not only does it spill in your sport, it spills into the hallways, it spills into the classroom. It does so many good things for your school. Real quick, Coach Ladd, Summit Squad is hot right now. Talk real quick about the culture before we go.
Summit Squad's still in full effect. Give them mad props. They really pack the gym. They give us a lot of energy, and they've been great. Win or lose, they're there.
Absolutely,
Love
they
'em.
have been very, very loyal, and they're going to stay there to the bitter end and fight for you guys. And
That's
I enjoy watching those guys. Enjoy watching Ravenwood and their the Ravenwood section there at the Nest. It's going to be a fun game. Thanks you guys for showing up. Thanks to Coach Mariska Harris of the Lady Ravenwood Raptors, and thanks to Josh Goodwin for saying thank you, Patrick Whitlock and Chris Ladd. This will be the WCTV Game of the Week, Summit at Ravenwood. Tonight, tip-off at 6 o'clock, live from Ravenwood at the Nest. This is going to be a fun game. I'm Jeremy Qualls, your host. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
If we want to keep the blue in the sky, the green in the trees, we better care for the air we breathe. That it would truly be a breath of fresh air when we all can see forever through the air we breathe. So let's really try to be more aware of what we can do to clean up the air we all share. So let's you and me roll up our sleeves. Let's do all we can and care for the air we breathe.